Randy here from the Valentine Goose channel, and I actually rushed home from work to make this video. And I've never done that before. This video is a direct response to the video I watched last night from K-Pro and Cow, and I will link that video down below because I don't want to rehash everything that they went through. And I didn't get to see the whole video. I watched the start of it because I knew something was up. So I watched the start of it, and I was actually in my car driving for the bulk of the middle of it. And I got to work like right when they were ending up. So I heard all this, oh, there's numbers, and you pull out numbers and all this stuff. And I'm just thinking this is just like try the wheel. It's going to be forced and stuff. So I got to work and I tried. I tried to follow it, and I'm like, I can't, because we were swamped at work last night, so I had a ton to do. So this morning I had some downtime, and I actually dug into it. And I think, if you were in the chat last night, or if you're one of the people like me, who are like, I'm going to figure this out. I dug into what they said, and this is what I found. And like I said, I got so excited because I did this in the morning when I had downtime, and I was like doing it, and my relief came in, so I had to like hide all my windows. I'm like, oh, gotta rush home and figure this out. So this is what I discovered, and this is only what I've discovered so far. If you haven't watched the video, this is concerning Forrest Fenn's treasure, and they pulled a set of coordinates out of the poem. Now, how they did that? They pulled anything that was a number, they pulled out, and then if there was a double number, they added up. So what I did was, and this is what got me kind of excited about it, I tried to put those coordinates in Google's Maps, and they wouldn't work for me. And I've never had luck working with degrees, minutes, and seconds. So I went to a site that converts degrees, minutes, and seconds into decimals. Because the decimal notation for GPS is far more accurate than degrees, minutes, seconds. And it's been a long time since I worked with this, but I know that like there's a place here in Iowa I got the GPS coordinates for, and every time I go back it's a little bit different, even though I'm standing on the exact same spot. And I know that it has to do with like how many satellites your phone's picking up, how many happen to be going over at the time, how many signals it's picking up. So it's not entirely 100% accurate. And degrees, minutes, seconds, and to me that was something I used as a kid, but when you get into the computer age, everything is decimal, so I've always used decimal notation for my GPS coordinates. I always use decimal notations for my GPS coordinates. Anyway, I won't get into that. I'm sure that'll get out somehow. But anyway, I went to a site that converts, and and I put in the degrees, minutes, seconds, and there was like two sections. And the second part was degrees and minutes, and the minutes had a decimal place. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it both ways, because if you go through the video that I'm going to link below, the first set of coordinates is 44 degrees, 26 minutes, and then there's no seconds. And that kind of struck me as, And the second one was, I scribbled on here, I think it's 110 degrees, 42 minutes, and 20 seconds. But I thought, well, I wonder what the difference is if I do 20 seconds or if I do 42 minutes, 42.20 minutes rather than 42 minutes, 20 seconds. And when I went to the map, that made about a 200-foot difference. Now, when you're looking for a box, that's that big, and your search area is now 200 feet, that's a huge difference. But I don't know, and if there's any aviators out there, because I know Forrest was an aviator. I don't know, would he have used minutes with a decimal, or would he have used minutes and seconds? This is why I think it's really important. Because I started doing the Google Map thing, and I went to DeLacy Creek is the trail that comes down into that area. So I thought, well, I wonder how much I can learn about DeLacy Creek. And so I went to one of the trail sites, because I used trail sites when I lived in Colorado. and I found the trail site for DeLacy Creek. And I, I found that trail on, because it wasn't marked on Google Maps. DeLacy Creek was, and the trail kind of runs alongside of it, so you can kind of guess. But if you use the minutes and seconds, it puts you about 200 feet further from the trail. But if you just use the minutes with a decimal, so the second part would be 42.20 minutes instead of 42 minutes 20 seconds, puts you about 200 feet closer. And then if you measure the distance from there to the trail, it's about 500 feet. Forrest always said there was people within 500 feet of the treasure. And then that also puts you into this little grove of trees. And you know, if you leave the trail and walk up this clearing, you're easily within 200 feet. And I think he said there was 200 feet searchers. So I think that's important. So then I went back to the poem, because the poem was supposed to lead you there. So the first part of the poem is start where warm waters halt, which would be the edge of the caldera, drive into the canyon down. You're driving down the loop road, and put in below the home of Brown. And so I was like, I wonder what that means. So I got on Google Street View, and I drove like I was driving, because there's a parking place for the trailhead, and then there's a little campground next to us. I thought, I wonder if any of these things are named something Brown. And I tried to find out what DeLacy Creek, what that was named for. In the short time I had, I could not find it. So again, I went down and I found the parking space, but none of it's labeled Brown. So I thought, you know, something logically has to say home of Brown. And again, I got excited because when I went back to DeLacy Creek trailhead information, this is on a completely different site. It's a site where they rate trails and they tell you how hard they are and everything. It says that when you pull in, the parking for the trail is across the street from the actual trailhead. And it says it overlooks like a DeLacy field, and it says this is funny because of the wording. It says this is home to the sandhill crane. And I said the sandhill crane can stand as tall as moose, and they're brown in color. And so I thought, oh, so you're pulling in to a big field that's home to a brown crane. There's your home of Brown. And I thought, wow, that really fits. So, then I followed the creek, and I did measurements, and it's just a little more than a mile. So I don't know where that fits in with when he walked from the car twice. That would be a 4-mile walk if you did it twice. So it's about 1.4 miles. So it's a little bit more than 4 miles if, doing it twice. But if it's in that patch of trees, then it's a little bit, there might be a shortcut into there. That's where I think you have to be boots on the ground to spot the blaze. And the blaze will tell you when to leave the trail and go into the trees. Again, and this is at 7,800 foot, so it's between 5 and 10,000, I think is what he said. So 7,800 feet is like, that's bang in the middle of 5 and 10. And I'm looking at the notes I quickly made. I was like trying to get this before I had to leave work. But yeah, the field, it's funny, like I said, the wording said this is home of the sandhill crane. And that's, sandhill crane is brown. Then it said there was another kind of crane that lives there. It said it's also brown, but it has a red feathers on its head or something. But sandhill crane is brown. I still haven't found any information on DeLacy. I don't know what DeLacy means. But, looking at, and then if you look at the topography, there's a deep, I can't, it's hard for me to imagine what that looks like unless you're actually there, but it looks like there's ravines and stuff that you walk down to, because you're walking towards, I think it's Shoshone Lake or something that's down there. So you're not even halfway to the lake where the spot is, but I think they're onto something. And as someone who hides certain codes in certain places, I was like, and I know he never did a treasure hunt before, and I don't know how much he researched treasure hunts. I know he said he spent years and years on the poem. So he could have been just spending years and years making it come out to these things. There's only one thing I don't like about it, and it's something I've said in many videos when I talk about Forrest Fenn, is I felt the phrase Terry Scant is so forced, it's got to mean something. And I've always looked for Terry Scant, like, as part, he had to put it in there because he needed syllables that had certain letters in them. And because I always felt there's something in the poem besides the poem. And that's another thing. He said, don't mess with the poem. And the reason you don't mess with the poem, because if you do, you're going to mess the numbers up and you won't have the GPS coordinates. So don't mess with the poem so you get the numbers in the right order. Look quickly down. I don't have the poem in front of me because I just got home, but I'm trying to do it from memory. I try to think of something that would have led to the beginning of the poem, because in this solve, you begin it on the second stanza, you go down, and then you go to the first stanza. I'm trying to think if there was something in there that would indicate to do that. But I still think Terry Scant had something to do with it, because he could have said hurry up. Hurry up has the same number of syllables. It wouldn't have messed with the pentameter of the poem or whatever. Hurry up, you know, I can't remember the wording exactly. But anyway, that was my take on it. I'll link that into the, I'll link his video down below. This is one I think works. And I know K-Pro's out there today, and I hope she finds something. But go with minutes with a decimal rather than minutes and seconds, and I think that's the more accurate one. That might be why the finder spent 25 days, because if you play between the two, that's a 200-foot area. And if you found that, if you couldn't find a blaze, who knows? And then 1,000 feet, you know, that's just down the trailhead. So there might, as you walk down the trail, there might have been something on the trail at about 1,000-foot mark, because a mile is like 5,000 feet. So about a fifth of the way down the trail, there might have been something that he thought was the artificial blaze. And it might have been some, maybe he misinterpreted. Maybe it was something that said, yeah, you're on the right trail. So there we go. I'm going to say, I'm going to throw my hat on this find here, because it's too coincidental. It's just, I mean, if it pointed to a place that didn't make any sense, the middle of a plain, because he says you got to go into a valley. Yeah, if it didn't make sense, I wouldn't be following this. But since it makes sense, and I'd have to see the area, but this looks like a place that overlooks the lake. I imagine it's really beautiful there, and I could see that would be a place where he'd want to pass. And so, I mean, everything just fits. And until it'll be a while before I make it to Yellowstone, but until someone goes there and takes pictures and stuff, I can see this being a place of great beauty. But anyway, I think that's elegant. And the thing is, when I started, because like I said, I was in the car driving when he was going over this, but I heard the rules. So when I got there, I made it work just by listening to the rules, and I got the same coordinates he did. So, and that's my mark of a good cipher. If you have rules, everybody can arrive at the same conclusion, and that's what happened. I used their rules, and I arrived at the same conclusion without watching what they did, and that, to me, that works. So anyway, throwing my hat in there. I'll get this uploaded. It'll be a few minutes before I post the link. So if you're one of the first people watching this, just I'm just got home from work, and I'll get it on there. Anyway, throwing my hat in there, and if I ever had to travel, I would go to this trail and I would go down there, and I just, that fits so well, and everything makes sense when you follow that. So anyway, don't mess with the poem.